in the
This
appropriate
conference
browser.
will now be
So
recorded.
that will be the basic, configuration settings. So all the basic configuration settings we are storing as public static final strings. That means constants. In other words, in data package constants. Okay. So now you understand what is the significance of data package, right? Everybody is with me. So the data package, main purpose of the data package is to store the constant values which are used for configuration purposes such as Chrome driver, Chrome browser, and also URL. Okay, URL is the main URL remains same for the given project. For example, if you are going to, let's say, Google project, okay, so the base URL remains as http or https www.google.com, right? Unless otherwise specified. So you can change it just once unless until you are working on multiple projects. So you have to store base URL 1, 2, 3. So for now, we are just storing one base URL. So that's why we call it base URL. Base URL actually means the basic URL. And you may have other pages slash HTML slash blah blah blah. All these things comes, right. So those are extensions. So you can always add them later. So we are just storing the base URL. And going forward, we can also store other stuff. Okay, so that's why I left it empty. And coming to infrastructure, what does it mean by infrastructure? When I say infrastructure, it's like laying down the roads, right? Building the basic infrastructure for the city. So what are those? If you want to navigate or drive in the city, you have to have roads, proper roads, right? And proper signs and all those things, signals and everything. Those are the basic infrastructure without which you cannot even navigate. There is no, you can still navigate. It will be, very difficult, right? So likewise in automation also, we need some basic infrastructure. What are those without which also you can do away? You can still drive, right? But if you have these are nice to have. Your job will be easier, right? If you don't have road, you can still drive, but that will be bumpy, right? You can still drive. So likewise, if you don't have infrastructure, you can still get the automation done. If you have the infrastructure, you can still get the automation done. But the basic advantage of infrastructure is reusability. So reusability in the sense, without having to define all these functions, basic necessary functions, you have to just call them. You just define them once and use them many times as and when you need them, right? So what are the infrastructure means in particular? The basic infrastructure that we need is how do you operate on different kinds of objects. What are the different kinds of objects that you encounter on a web page? Simple.
But click.
Correct. No. Basic objects. I'm not asking basic operations. Basic objects are, tell me, link, hyperlink, edit button, text box, radio button, drop down value, text, normal text, blah blah blah, many, right? So let's watch them. So all these are the basic objects, right? So think of them as individual cities. You want to go to them and do something, right? Now, if you want to go to them, operate upon them, you need something. You need to define them explicitly, and we already know we have defined using the driver, because driver is the one which drives, just like the driver of the car. The driver of the Chrome drives your script, right? Simple as that. That's the analogy I'm using. And we already know, so how do you operate on an object? So first of all, you have to locate the object, just like you locate the city or home you want to go. How do you locate the city? Using the address, USPS address, right, which is constant. So our zip code or something. So you locate that address using some technique. And what is the technique? There are multiple techniques, right? What are those? You can locate the element by ID, like by link text, partial link text, class, blah blah blah, and out of which we have chosen to locate the objects using export. What does the export mean? Export, full form of export is?
Export is over to find data.
What is XML again? I'm going digging down. What is XML? XML means extensible markup language, right? So XML in the sense it has a hierarchy. So it is just like human relationships, grandparent, parent, child, child's child, blah blah blah. So it is like hierarchy. Or in office environment, if you take your boss, your subordinate, and subordinate is one more blah 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 until the very this employee. So my employees are the descendant element is whatever element I want to operate upon. Like for example, link, and that link has we have already seen in the DOM. What is the DOM? DOM means document object model, right? So how do you open the document object model in a given page? By
Inspect the URL.
Inspector calls try.
Inspect.
The URL.
exactly those values we have to use to locate those elements. Okay. Now, for example, if you see in this particular page in which I start the execution, if I want to locate the address of this element round trip or one way, let's say round trip is already selected, let's go for one way. So this is called object inspector. So in using inspector, I'll be able to locate this and it shows me the object type, object property and value combinations, multiple properties, right? And I'll be able to write my own XPath. So why I am saying XPath, like I said, it's hierarchy. If you see, it's coming like this, right? Diagonal way. The topmost grandparent, your you can say it's like Adam and Eve. That is your topmost grandparent. Okay, and that is HTML because everything, if I hover over the HTML, everything is selected in the web page, right? That means everything that you see in the web page belongs to HTML because HTML is the topmost tag, right? In the HTML, HTML is the language used and aligned these web elements appropriately according to the requirement. And if I see HTML has head, body has div, body, tr, these are table, and that actually ends up somewhere here in which it says input. Okay, so you don't see all those views. Why? Because those are actually hidden. I mean, you don't see all those tables, right? Web tables, because it will look very cumbersome. So those are hidden. That's why you don't see. There is a property called hidden true or false. So that's hidden true. Hidden is enabled, right? And here, if I want to write the XPath for this, what I would do, I would just control F and double slash input, and I see there are 7 inputs, and out of which I am only interested in the particular input, and I'll again go back, so that way we'll re-choose it, and I will write my XPath using my partial XPath technique. So that I already told you, contains means it's a partial match, and then I'll be able to choose one of these properties which actually is easier for me. And which one you want to choose? Name, trip type, value one way, because name, trip type is common for both round trip and one way. So obviously it's going to get me 2 matches. So that's not what I want. I want single match, so I will choose value. So value, comma, one way, and go close and one hour, right? Now I will take it and store it in some place, and that place is called page objects. Okay, because this is an object belonging to a page, hence it is called page object. And I want to store this page object, XPath of the page object, in a particular location called page objects. Okay, it is as simple as that. It is very user friendly. Names are given. Data is for data. Infrastructure is stored to infrastructure, like click link and all these driver.find element by XPath. All these just to click on a link, and instead of doing this every time, I'm just putting in a nice function called click link. That is called reusable function. So it is just for the reusability. And once I capture XPath, I want to store it in page objects, but not any page objects. I want to create separate class for the page and store it in that one, right? Because if I create just one class in page objects, what happens? All the XPaths will be stored in just one class, right? And it will be cumbersome. You can still do that by separating with the separator or just by putting some comment or everything, right? You can still do that, but maintenance wise, it will be very problematic because if you want to change was some XYZ page, some ABC object, then you have to locate clearly. You have to search, and that will be big headache, especially if you have 100 pages in a project, right? So the easiest solution is just create separate class like this for separate page, and just call the class name by the page name itself, and just say arch, so that we will definitely just by looking at it and calling wise also it will be easier because if I want to call the object belonging to flight finder and I'll just type flight finder, right? That will be easier for me. So hence we are creating a separate class in the page objects. So that will be in this case flight for okay, already we have created yesterday, right? So flight finder is already there. So let's go there. Okay. So now we have just captured this XPath and I'm going to store as a public static final string. Yeah. Can everyone mute yourself because it's disturbing others? I think in this room only somebody mute. Everybody unmuted, right? Okay, so as okay, let's see. I think it will show the microphone. That is me only, and apart from MD Mola. MD Mola is, oh, that's you only. Okay, you can unmute. Okay, okay. So let's continue. So where do we want to store these XPaths? All these XPaths will be going into particular page by the same name, and we are storing these objects with a specific naming convention. Okay, naming convention is also important because otherwise it will become very cumbersome. It's nothing right or wrong. It is just that you have to follow some standards. So the developer standards are such a way that it will make the developer's job easier. I mean, in case of maintenance, in case of giving KT to the new joinees, they will be able to understand. Even the development lead can also go through the code and easily understand for review purpose. And it will be easier for maintenance. Single word maintenance is a reason why we are doing all this. Okay. So in this case, how do you store this objects XPath one way? So first thing is type of object. What is the type of object? Radiobutton. And name of object is, you can say one way, flight type one way. So let's just say one way and equals. Okay, so now you know what is the purpose of page objects. Page objects is to, you can write down somewhere. Page objects is to store all the XPaths. Now,
What is the definition of
page object, the name
most of the time
right. So page object, what do you think the page object is? Page object, the objects belonging to a page. Okay, so all the objects belonging to a page are within like this. There are how many objects in this one? Type, round trip, that is one object. That is one way is another object. Passengers is another object. Forget about the object type. There are some objects, bunch of objects we want to store. Okay. Now we locate these objects by XPaths, right? That is how we do in Java or whichever language you are referring to. So we store these in a particular location or particular folder called page objects. Simple as that. You explain is exactly the same way if somebody asks you in the interview what is a page object model. Page object model is the model in which we actually locate the elements addresses using the XPath and store them in the page object classes as public static final strings. And this is called page object model. Simple as that. Okay. So if he asks more questions, you have to answer in the similar way. We can't predict, but this is the simplest answer. Simple answer. Yeah, Page objects, everything is named in the name itself. Page objects, right? Do not get confused. Page objects, the objects belonging to page. And how do you store them? How do you store them? I want to store them in export format. Where do you store them? I want to store them in the package called page objects. My package name is page objects, right? So that is a page object. Okay, don't worry. Interview questions, how to handle them? I'll take another class for that one. So first concentrate on the subject. Subject is important. So once subject is over, we'll concentrate on the interview questions. That is altogether different ball game. Okay, so now we have captured the export of object and stored in a page object model, right? Now, what I'm doing is I'm trying to explain you the importance or significance of these individual packages. The data package we have already seen why we are using, right? So why we are using data package? Storing constant data, right? Configuration data. Why we are using infrastructure? Right, so basic operations, correct. Yeah, that's it. I mean, if you understand, and I mean, even if you're not able to express right now, that's fine. But important is you have to understand. And page objects. Now, just now we explained. Now we'll come to the page flows. Why we are doing page flows? We have located the address of the house, but we have to go to the house, right? So that is also important. Navigation is important. Now you have to click on that. So that definition must be provided in the page flows. And page flows also we are creating a separate class like separate house, page finder, flight finder page, and we have already created one function for click link, click flights, right? Now this is a flight finder flight details. Okay, so let's create another function public void. So this is all flight finder details. We can actually segregate into two sections. One is flight details, one is preference, and one is continue. Okay, so I can also do that. Let's do that separately, because in case if I want to just fill up the details in the flight details and just not touch the preference, go with the default, I can also do so. I will have a choice. So let's segregate as much as possible. So let's divide this into already divided. Ah, Muzammil Haq, can you mute yourself? And Shahida Parveen. Yeah, Muzammil Haq, please mute yourself. Otherwise, it's noisy, very noisy. And also Shahida Parveen. I don't know where the okay. Muzammil Haq is muted himself. Okay, good. So everybody is muted except for me. Okay, so let's create functions. So why we are creating functions? We have already created a class for this page flows, right? The thing is you cannot put everything in the class, right? You have to create a function and call it. That is how the Java is, and any other language, Python or any other language is the same way, I guess. So we are creating functions, and the one more advantage is if you want to call only those particular flows, we will be able to call. If I put everything in a single function, I have to call it. There is no other way. So I am like imposed. I'm forced to call it. So I don't want to do that. I want to give the whoever wants to call this a choice. Whichever want to call, whichever functions you want to call, just call only of them. Okay, so not everything. So let's. I have already created one function for clicking on the flights link, which is this. Second one is we will operate on only this, so that I will call flight details. Then we will create one more function for preference. So flight details. Okay, so every time you have to pass the WebDriver, because WebDriver is passed from where the test case, right? Test case has a WebDriver, single instance of WebDriver, which is going to drive our script. So you cannot create multiple WebDrivers. So the option is just pass it as an argument. Okay, so now we have to use the infrastructure to go to these individual objects and operate upon them. So first my operation is for selecting this one way, right? It was like this, and I'm going to select this like this. Okay, so what do we do using the driver? So first I will do linear fashion, okay, linear way. Then we will convert into modularized way. That means we will create a reusable function. We haven't created a reusable function for Radiobutton yet, right? So far we have only created for link and text box and other stuff. So we will write normally. So the important thing is you have to remember this driver.find element in a interview or somewhere. They will ask you this question. You have to answer it like driver.find element by XPath. You cannot say I'll just call op.clicklink. They don't know what op is, right? So it is my name. Op is for operation. They don't know. You cannot say how do you click a link in a Selenium WebDriver. You cannot say using op.clicklink. Click. Nobody knows. That is your project has the click link function and you have given it a name, so they don't know that. You can say that, and inside operation you have to mention. So this is very important. Basic is very important. You should not forget the basic, and this is a basic. So how do you locate the element using driver dot find element, and by is a class which has bunch of locators, and we can use XPath. You can also use others, so it will look like this. If you want to use by.id, I'll just show you for sample purpose. And what is the ID here? If you have ID, you can use it. Do you have ID here? No. Okay, so I have name, let's say. So in case if I have name, by dot, let's say, do you have name? No, we don't have name. We don't have link text, but if we have, okay, name is there. Oh, sorry, name is there. So by dot name, and name would be what is the name here? Trip time, right? So I can put in a single quote, trip, and then dot click for link, and for all the other I mean radio buttons, it's a click only. So in this case there is no click. Okay, so don't worry. You have to close this, close one more time. Okay, so don't worry about this. By dot name, you can use by dot name or by dot individual locators, and I want to use by dot XPath. Okay, so XPath expression I will be able to pass right within the page flows, because I have already stored the XPath in the page objects, and that would be again by class name flight finder object dot, and radio button is the one, and I paused it and close this. So every time you open a bracket, close this. So I close this, and I have to close this by dot, right? So you have to close one more. So the bottom line is the number of opening brackets must be equal to the number of closing brackets. That is the bottom line. Okay, dot. Now you are given with the options. What are the different methods you can apply? Appropriately you apply. So I can clear also, and I can do bunch of stuff here, but the appropriate function on the radio button is click only. Okay. Okay, so now this will actually locate the web element and click on it. So just like I do manually, it will it is like this, and it will come and click, right? Now we just now defined it in a linear fashion, basic fashion. Okay, now let's create a reusable function for it and do the same thing. Okay, so I am creating a definition in both ways, linear fashion as well as a modularized fashion. So you have to remember both, otherwise it will become very difficult to explain it. You can still use it, understand, but that's not all, right? You have to explain. Radio button. So this is how you create reusable functions also. Even it is for one time, you should be able to create one if the need be. Okay. Okay, so now what should be the signature of this function? Public. Public is because I should be able to access it in outside class. This class has a function, but I want to call this function from another class, right? So it has to be public. There is no other option. Now, what else? Should it be void? Should it be returning something?
It should be static. No, it should be return value.
You don't have to return anything. I mean, this get text must return something, but clicking the radio button should not return anything. There is no, right? You don't want to return, so just put it void. So choose appropriately. And what do you want to call this function as? Yeah, you have to be very explicit. What do you want to do with click, and what do you want to do on click radio button? Radio button is one word, or you can use names appropriately, and every time it has to be driven by WebDriver. And should it take anything? Yes, it should take XPath expression, right? Let's call it XPath expression, and that's it. Yeah, go ahead.
For like button or link, whatever. First line.
Okay. So
Yeah, this one, the first one. If I click link or button, whatever. Why I have to click again on the link?
so you want to click on a link, right, or button?
But
Okay.
yeah, that one is will work for everything.
Yeah, that will work, but it is not explicit, right? This works for clicking link or button. You can also use click link for radio button.
Yeah,
Correct.
That's right.
Okay. So that is good question. But I want to create a function separate for radio button. Okay. Otherwise, I have to name this as click link or button or radio button.
Oh,
Okay. So even if the definition is same for same, exactly, you are right. Exactly, it is similar, but just to be convenient, it will be convenient if the user wants or automation tester wants to click on a radio button by calling some function. The first thing that comes into his mind is the function name should be click radio button, right? Not click link. Link is separate, radio button. So even though definition is here, same thing. We are getting yeah, exactly, separate function. You can just copy paste it.
How about you just put it as a click, just click and you can use it like
That will be not explicit.
Okay.
See, I'm clicking what? You have to tell that, right? You are clicking button or link.
more specific.
Yeah, specific. That's it. That's the bottom line. So be as specific as you have to. So click link is very specific. I mean, I can mention click link or button also, but it is common sense. Okay, link or button both are same in the web page, right? But radio button is altogether different. The thing is, for radio button and the link, the operation is dot click only. Okay, that's why definition is same. We are creating it. It is only for why we are creating two separate functions. I tell you in single word.
Yeah,
Convenience.
convenience.
Convenience is the word. Okay. So the question is right. You got the right question, but the answer is convenience. Okay. Now you define the exactly same way. Okay. Even if it is same, this will actually give you practice. Create more. Even if it is like let's say I will ask you to create a reusable function for clicking a button separately. So can you create? Yeah, create, because it will give you practice, right? Click button, do exactly, don't copy paste, just do the driver.find element by xpath and pass the xpath expression dot click. Okay, so that way you will get hands-on experience by creating a new function. It is a redundant function, but still create it. There is nothing wrong in creating a new function. Click button, right? Okay, so now tell me, how do you click a radio button using driver? Okay, so XPath expression is already passed, so just make sure this and this must be same. I mean, this is a still name, but both names must match. And dot, what is the function? This is where you are actually, yeah, differentiating between other objects and this object. So that's it. Now we have to call this in the page flows. Page flows for flight finder. So we have done in a basic way, and now we are going to do in advanced way in the modularized way. Okay, so how do we call that function that we just now defined? Now you see click radio button and click link both are there, right? Now I'll be able to choose appropriately, because I'm willing to operate upon a radio button. I will choose radio button. Doesn't matter whether the definition is same or different. Okay, now what is the XPath expression? Again, I will pass it from appropriate class. Now simple thing is, I will, okay, what page I am in? Flight finder. So I'll just type flight finder. And what kind of flight finder class it is? It is an object type of class, page objects. So I'll choose page objects and just put dot. And what kind of object type I am trying to operate upon? Radio button. So I'll choose. So what is happening right now? The convenience of giving the appropriate names. If I give like, let's say I just gave one way, Okay, the name of the object is just one way, XPath. Okay, then it will become very difficult. I cannot call because I know I am on the page while coding. I know the class name flight finder dot. I know the type of object radio button. Then boom, I'll get this option radio button underscore one way. It's all about filtering, so there are like there may be 100 objects, but there may be only 10 objects which are of radio button type, right? So if I type radio button, it will filter out only show 10, out of which I will be able to easily choose. Filtering is the other key if you are giving the proper name. Okay, so we just defined this click radio button. Everybody understood this till this portion, right? Okay, so yeah, go ahead.
Can you explain once again the radio button? I don't understand that, please.
Radio button is just like any other object. Do not get confused with radio button. It's just like another object. And radio button's primary importance is if you want to choose just one of those, right? You cannot choose multiple. Okay, it's toggle. If I choose radio one way, you will be automatically unchoose, unselect the radio trip, round trip. Sorry. So if you select round trip option, automatically the one way option is unselected. That is a toggle thing, right? Unlike you will be able to choose multiple options in the check boxes, that is different story. But in radio button, you'll be able to choose only one, just like gender, male or female, type of trip, round trip or one way, just one. Okay, so then a developer will definitely go for the radio button. Okay, now this is called a radio group. Radio type is a radio group in which there are individual options, round trip and one way. Okay, don't worry about that, that is related to HTML. Now we want to simply locate this radio button. How do we locate? Using the XPath. Okay,
So here round trip it's clicked on by default, right? So how do you know?
Okay, so there are a bunch of functions. So selected is a function. Okay, so I'll show you. The basic function which we are using is this one. So I'll show you by commenting. You can check whatever you want to check in the radio button. For example, okay, so the basic operation is just click on the radio button. But if I want to check whether the radio button is already selected or not selected, let's say, so just put dot again. Dot. There is a function called is selected. If you do this, is selected is going to return you Boolean value. If it is selected, it will return you true. Okay, so all you have to do is just put it in a Boolean flag, let's say, because Boolean is flag. Okay, and it's going to return true if it is selected. In this particular sense, the one way object is not selected, right? So it is going to return you false. That way you will know programmatically during the execution. If it is already selected, do not select. If it is not selected, just select it. So you can reprogram it. That is a good question. So whatever you can do manually on the web page, you will be able to do using Selenium WebDriver. So only thing is you have to explore the options. The basic option we have been using is just operation. But like I'm glad you raised the question. Can we select? Can we decide whether it's selected or not? Yes. So that the technique is just start with is. Okay, is actually is going to show you is selected or is enabled, is implemented. Those kind of things were defined in is and blah 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 functions. And most likely, I mean, I'm not saying 100%, most likely it is going to return a Boolean value. How do you know? When you hover over it, it will show you what is the return type. Just hover over it and see it is written Boolean. This is a single function, right? Is selected is a function which is defined by the Google in Chrome driver. Okay, web element driver is the interface. I told you, right? It is going to have a bunch of abstract functions. That means no definition, only declaration. And all these functions are implemented or defined in the Chrome driver. And selected is one of those. And it is return type is Boolean. That's how it is set up because it is a standard. Okay. Now you got the question, right? Now we are not going to create individual reusable functions for this in the infrastructure, but because it is very cumbersome, on the need basis, if you want to select, just call driver.findElement by boom, just is selected. So all I'm asking you is just explore all these options, which I'm going to show you. But I cannot cover everything. You have to work on yourself and ask questions. I'll be happy to answer for those questions. Okay, now basic operation is dot click. Okay, and let's do little. Okay, why it is throwing exception here? Why it is throwing here? Oh, okay. Dot click doesn't return anything, right? So that's ridiculous. Okay. Okay, so let's do little programming here. Okay. So if it is selected, then only then do not do anything. If it is not selected, do anything. Because next time I might select one way and it might remember that, and if we don't, it is nothing wrong. Even if it is selected, it is going to reselect it. Okay, it's not going to fail. Yeah, it is going to just click on it. Click is a select, and click whatever is selected already. If you click 100 times, it's not going to throw any. If you do it, if you are able to do it manually, you will be able to do it. That means, see, one way is already selected. I am clicking 100 times, nothing is happening. It's already selected and it remains selected, right? It's not going to get unselected. Right, yeah. Correct. So that thing we are going to program it here in the flight details. Let's program it just for the sake of it. Okay, even though it's not important. So let's write if. Okay, and okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use above function itself. So let's use this for the same purpose. Let's create boolean and flag. Flag is because flag is either true or false. We can name it accordingly. And let's say this is dot is selected. Okay, so let's go for it. Or is enabled, is displayed. Just put is and you will see a lot of functions. And let's say the flag is true. Okay, so we are going to program it conditionally. We are going to click radio button. If flag means if flag is true automatically. When you say boolean, if flag equals, you don't have to say string, you can say if flag means yes. So the thing is, if flag is not, that means if flag is false, then select. If flag is true, don't do anything. That's all. So all I'm going to do is put a negation before. That means if flag is false, this means if flag is false automatically. If not flag means flag is false. We don't have to say explicitly for a boolean. Then do it. That's it. Okay, you don't have to mention the else also. So what happened during the runtime is, if flag, that means if it is not selected already, then only it will select. If it is selected already like this, it just won't do anything. Simple as that, right? That is a program. Okay, so this will be little bit enhanced program, which is good. Okay, now let's go to the passengers section. Say I'm going to travel with my wife, so there are two passengers, right? By default one. And if you want to, if you're only traveling by all by yourself, you don't have to do anything, right? Just leave it alone, right? Or you can do little bit programming like this. If passengers is 1, don't do anything. If passengers is 2, just select 2 or 3. Okay, so let's say we are traveling with our companion and 2 or 3. You can actually program it, that's your homework, but let's go with the 2. So passengers number is 2. So what can I do? We have the reusable function in infrastructure for select drop down or not? First thing you have to think. No, what is the kind of object here? Passengers is what kind of object?
Select. Is a drop
down. In layman point of view, drop down. In developer point of view, it is select. You're right, both. It's if you select here and see in the DOM, it is select. That is a class name. But layman point of view, the object name is drop down. Now we want to select 2 from the drop down. Now first thing that has to come to your mind is, do we have the infrastructure function for such operation? Do we have a function to select a value from drop down? Did we create it or not?
Yeah, we created.
We created, because we created, so we have to know, right?
Sorry, I just passed before in a class.
Right.
So
Oh, okay. Sorry.
He just joined today.
Okay. Okay. No problem.
I have no idea.
Right. Okay. So for the people who joined just today, I'll show you just quickly only 4 or 5 operations functions we have created, and one of which is click link. Okay, click link is already there. So driver.find element by export dot click. Okay, that is easy. Then setx. Setx is to type something in the text box, that is already created. Okay, we define and we have to remember because we defined ourselves. We have to remember set X is already there, and select drop down also is there. And I'll just explain because of I mean new joinees. And this actually needs a select class. Select is a class separately created for dealing with the drop downs. Okay, that is exceptional case only for the drop downs. Remaining everything is easy. Just for the drop downs it is little bit complicated. And you have to instantiate select class. Okay, you know how to instantiate a class. Select instance equals new keyword, then call the constructor. Okay, you already know Java, right? Little bit. Little bit. Okay, so when you instantiate, first thing it's going to call in the class is the constructor, whether it is default or parameterized. And this is a parameterized constructor, and this parameterized constructor takes web element as the argument. See, web element. Now what is a web element? Web element is nothing but
driver.find element,
right, driver.find element by XPath, and if it takes XPath expression, that is going to return you a web element.
web element.
What is a web element in Selenium driver terminology? The one way, this is a web element. The object itself is a web element. Okay, the web element is nothing but the element which is displayed in the web page. Everything is in the name. Okay,
Web element and also the attributes, right? Attributes on element of the
attributes are these are the attributes that are given, like name is attribute. Attributes are the property and value combinations which are used by the developer to identify the object, and which are used by the automation testers to locate them, to operate upon them. Simple as that. Now web element is nothing, do not get confused, that's why I'm clearly writing driver.find element by XPath is going to locate, right? And is going to, once it locates, it's going to give you a web element, obviously. So if you have doubt, just hover over the function, and the find element function is going to return you web element. So far we haven't stored in a web element because we directly operated upon it. You can do that, you can directly operate upon it, or you can store it in a particular object, right? And the type of object it is going to give you is a web element. So simply I'm storing it in web element called LE. And since select constructor is taking the web element here as an argument, I'm passing this. Okay, now using this instance, I'll be able to select the value from the drop down. So there are a bunch of functions inside it, out of which we have use the select by visible text because it's easier. Okay, so whatever you see here, you will be able to select. For example, I want to select 2 here, so I'll simply pass input value 2. So that's what it means by select by visible text. Whatever you see, you will be able to select it without having to go to DOM, period. So now we'll come back to our coding and use this function. Simple. Okay, so if you want to write from the sketch, you have to write 3 lines. That is very cumbersome, right? So that's why we create a reusable function and come back here, and we are going to select a passengers just like this. So now tell me, how do you call op dot select array drop down, and driver is already passed. XPath expression we haven't stored yet, right? So we are going to write the XPath expression now. Now tell me, how do you store the XPath expression? How do you evaluate this? Select. Now there are 8 selects. See, as and when you, this is the XPath expression by itself. This is a complete XPath expression. Okay, but the problem is it is showing 8 matches. Why? Because there are 8 drop downs in this page. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. Okay, that's why you see 1 of 8. The first one is 1 of 8. Now you have to dig down to your object of interest, right? What is my object of interest? The first drop down itself. Now you have to say what properties of select you want to select. Okay, now you choose one of those properties and tell me. Contains, yes,
or we can use the indexing by find element, Sangam.
What do you mean by
we can write the element expert find element by indexing, and like how the way we are finding expert the elements, and by indexing we get third bracket, number 1 is number 2, then which one will be pop up, then we can select that expert in the
Oh, I
also.
mean, okay, if you have like n number of objects of similar type in the page, by indexing,
Yeah.
you want to see first
Yeah,
instance or
yeah, yeah.
second
That's what
instance.
I'm saying. If is there a way, can I do it?
Okay. That I will tell you that disadvantage with this is if the order is changed, let's say tomorrow the developer changes the order, he puts passengers under lastly. Okay, after the airline, he puts passengers. Then your index changes, you don't have control over it. And whatever is the first index, it is going to select. Instead of passengers, it will select airline, and it's going to
Okay.
definitely fail. So definitely that's a dangerous. I mean dangers. So
So okay. So should I use the
correct. Yeah.
content? Okay,
This
okay,
is the
okay.
tried and yeah, exactly. This is a tried and tested method and technique. So it's going to work 99.99%. I'm not saying
Okay,
100%.
okay.
It
So we're
will work on
using
that.
content
You
with
find
the attribute
exactly
or text?
correct. Attribute is the best way, not
Attribute is
index.
okay,
So
not text. Okay, attribute. Okay, okay. Thank you.
yeah, you're welcome. So tell me what contains property? No, where is the text? There is no text, right? Name, right? It is clear. There is only one, and that is name. So obviously you have to choose. You're forced to choose the name. And name and quote pass count.
Pascal.
Pass count means passengers count. So that's a short form. That's what they give. And one of one, boom. So just hover over the yellow color and it should select the object in interest, object of interest. Okay, now I'm going to take this and store it in where? Store it in the page object. So this is a page object. So I've already created the signature. I'll just copy it to save time. And I'm going to call this as drop down because that's a type of object. And what the object name? Passengers. Exactly. You can actually copy paste just to avoid the I mean typographical mistakes. And whatever I just validated, I'll just copy paste here. Copy paste is okay once you understand everything because that will save time, real time. And yeah. So now come back to the page flows. Now it's asking me the XPath expression for drop down. Now you have to pass the actual finder object dot drop down. See D, and it just showed me. And it also takes another extra value because select you have to pass something and input value that is. And what is the value? Visible text. So what do you want to pass the value? Number 2, right? Number 2 is not an integer, it's a string again. So you have to pass, even though it is number, you have to pass, treat it as a string and pass it within a quotes. Okay, now second job is done. Third job is almost similar because you can do the same repeatable operation, right? So all I'm going to do is, okay, first locate the elements because that's important. So control C. Okay, now second object name, I want to call it as depart from because that's what it is. And drop down is drop down, that's fine. Just change the passengers to draw so and so, and remove any spaces because variable names should not contain spaces. And okay, so let's see, this is depart from, right? So you cannot guess, so let's actually choose and see. Okay, pass count is okay, it's not actually going, so let's depart from. Okay, so depart from is this one, the one which is selected in blue, and it has only one name from port, right? So all you have to change is the name value from pass count to from port. Yeah, then so just copy it and paste it over here. Okay, just be careful, there is a space and it's not gonna work. So remove the spaces, extra spaces you might have put accidentally. Okay, so then depart from is done, and let's first create the XPaths because these are easy. And depart on what date, and on is again subdivided into two parts, month and date. So just treat them as separate individual drop downs. So let's go there and tutorial. And this is the from month. So all I got to do is just change the name. That's all. Everything else is easy, and boom. So let's copy. Okay, already copied depart on, right? So I'm naming the XPaths appropriately so that we can easily figure out. And that would be this. Okay, so there is a space here. That's why every time it's coming. Okay, so Deport on is done, and deport on as two sections, right? Month and date. So you have to again subdivide in your naming also. Deport on month, and next thing will be called deport on date. Okay, so let's not take chance. Let's see, verify clearly. And from day instead of from month, it's from day. So I can change it right here, right? I don't have to even correct, because I already know it's gonna work. So I can directly change. I can take little risk because if it fails during runtime, let it fail. Let's see. So I just want to save time. And arriving in is the next drop down, right? So tell me, how do you write arriving in export? Control C. Can you guess? First name it. Arriving in, right? Arriving in which city? Departing from which city? Arriving in which city? So let's change the name. Arriving in, correct? So let's go with the same name. And what do you think it is? Arriving in. So just departing from port, it may be to port. Correct. That's my educated guess, but may not be right. So let's. I mean, I am going to just verify soon. Okay, now let's verify. To port. So I was right. Right. To port is a name. So I just guessed it and I got lucky. And returning, again, returning is divided into two sections, month and date. So let's copy the departing month and departing date and change little bit, right? So exactly what to change, you already know. Can you tell me? Okay, so these are the two things that we are going to define for returning, correct? Returning instead of departing, return, because returning. Okay, I think we have selected the one way. So obviously returning will, you can leave it, right? But okay, so let's have the return type also. So let's make the round trip. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going back, because it will give you more options to write the code, because returning you will get more prices and you have to validate. So just for the sake of showing more functionality, I'm choosing return, because one way is just going to calculate the ticket for one way ticket. So I want you to be able to calculate more. So link radio button, let's select one way. So one way is only there, so we haven't created the export for round trip. So let's create one. It is already selected, that we already know, right? But since we have done the little programming, if it is already selected, do not select. If it is only not selected, do not select. So we are good. So let's do that, because tomorrow if the developer changes to the default value to one way, then we are gone. Our code will not work. So it's better always do a little bit programming. And let's call this round trip. Okay, so what do you think the export change will be? One way becomes round trip, right? I think, but let's not leave it without making sure. Okay, name round trip, correct. So value is round trip. So value is round trip, perfect. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back and change it to round trip. Okay, the reason it's showing error is because you haven't saved it. Control Shift S will save all. See, now the error is gone. Okay, so if it is selected, then Boolean value. If already Boolean value selected, do not do anything. Otherwise, select round trip only. Okay, so now we are back to the exports. Just finish these exports and we'll go back. Okay, so from month, this are returning. So instead of from month, it should be 2 month, I guess. Just guess. And let's call this returning on date instead of departing on date. Correct. And this becomes from to 2, right? From becomes 2. So let's make sure instead of leaving it for, okay, so 2 month, I was right. and to date. Today, correct. So 2 month and today, both are correct. And what else is remaining? Just okay, let's come back to these preferences later, because the function we are dealing with is just flight details. Let's go and define it right away. And we have defined the select drop down for passengers. Now we are left with depart from, right? Okay, so now what do you want to do? Manually, you first choose manually. So what do you want to depart from? Where do you want to depart from? New York. Okay, good. So default, I'm not going the default. That is the whole point. So if I'm going the default, I don't have to do anything, right? So I want to do something with it, and I'm choosing New York. Okay, so now how do you choose New York from dropdown programmatically? Oh, no for loop is needed. This is a drop down. I want to select. I'm not selecting all of them in the for loop, right? Obviously, I cannot. Huh?
Selecting by text.
Not set text. This is a drop down.
All text, I think you need, right?
The drop down.
Hmm.
Not by index. We are going by text, right?
Going by text, not by index, right? So already there is a function select drop down, and all I have to pass is the XPath expression. So tell me the XPath expression. Find. Oh, sorry, flight finder. Flight finder object dot and drop down, and what drop down it is belonging to? No. In this section, tell me. Departing from, that is correct. Yeah. So all you have to choose is what is your this thing departing from. So your object has to be departing from. That's why naming convention is given. Okay. Now what input value you want to pass? New York. So this is select by visible text. That means you have to exactly select what you are seeing right now. New space York, right? New space York. And any case sensitivity you have to follow exactly. You cannot unfortunately copy from here. You can copy from DOM, but just see, watch carefully, New York, and you already know, right? It's exact spelling is New York. Okay, so now that is done, and then what next? Now all we are doing is just operating upon each individual object in sequential order. Okay, now departing on which month? Okay, op dot select drop down driver XPath expression is flight finder object dot again drop down. Now what is it? What is the drop down? Correct. Departing on date. Yeah. So obviously, what on date or on month?
On month.
This is in the alphabetical order, not in the same order that we have defined or stored, right?
Yeah.
This is listed in the alphabetical order. So
1 month.
departing on month is the one. So yes. And what do you want to select from the departing month? So I want to travel today. That is by default selected as today, February 24th. So let's say I'm planning to start on March, let's say, because we are changing the values, right? We are not going the default. So let's change it to March. Okay, so that is done, and then I'm copying the same thing above because just your name change, values change. And what day you want to travel on? March. Let's say 20th.
Wonderful.
So 20th. Okay, now we have forgot to change the XPath itself. So instead of month, it's a day or date here. So even though it's a date, I'm day. Okay. So now next is arriving in. So departing from all these three values, I can copy, right? Instead of departing, it's just arriving. So I'm putting here, and departing changes to arriving. Arriving in, I think. Arriving in, you're right. Okay. So you are going to travel to which city? From New York to Paris. Okay. So let's go to Paris. Later you can get these values from a Excel spreadsheet that I'm going to show later, because I don't want to like put everything on plate right now. So returning on, let's say April 24th. Okay, that's fine. So this will be April, but on departing instead of arriving. Okay, arriving is actually showing error, so let's see clearly. Just type arriving in. Okay, it's not coming, so maybe we haven't changed the values. Oh, we haven't defined returning. Wait a minute. Oh, it's instead of arriving, it's returning, right? Let's see. Just type returning and returning month first and April and then returning January, and just copy pasting quickly on date, and I want to go with the same date. Okay, 24th. So let's see what happens. Okay, I mean, it won't create any issue because even though it is selected already, it is going to reselect. That's all. So let's just for the sake of seeing it, we will see. Okay, now we have just defined the flight details, right? So now what we are going to do, we are going to quickly test it out. Okay, because okay, let's see what is this error about. Is selected, and what is the error? Can anybody identify what is the mistake? Huh? Semicolon. That's right. Okay, so how do we call this? Now we will come to the testing. Okay, now we have seen all these page objects, page flows. Now we are going to come to test. Now I already explained setup, correct?
Yeah.
So setup is used for launching the browser and driver, Chrome driver or Firefox driver, all these details, setup related issues. Setup related details will be determined in the beginning. Now test is where you test, right? And we are just calling in the test. That's all we are doing. So flight reservation, and we have already clicked on the flights. Then what we are going to do? New flight finder page, right? This is where we are defined just now. And what is the function? Just now we defined flight details, correct. So now automatically it took the driver, whatever driver is given by setup, it is taken. Now let's run and see. Okay, round trip is selected, that's fine. All the details. Okay, perfect. So now we are going back to the other definitions, which is what is left over. The next function is supposed to fill in the details for the preferences, right? Preferences. You want to fly economy or business class or first class? Okay, so it is very simple. So all you got to do is just create a separate function. Let's call it public void. So now there is no hard and fast rule. If you want to define this in the same function, that is fine too. Okay, we are just segregating this just for the sake of it. Just for practice, you might think of it as maybe more practice. Okay, so let's call it preferences, and let's take WebDriver again. That is a WebDriver. See, WebDriver interface and driver. And now what you are going to do here, you want to select the video button, first class, right? So first of all, what you have to do is, you know already, you have to create an export for it. So what is the export? This whole is a radio group. When I hover over here, when I exactly go to the radio button, it points at radio button. And okay, so select is not the one. I'm going to just change these values from select to input, and then contains is okay. And what else? Value first, right? Instead of name, I got to change it to value. And what is the value? Okay, then I got a one match. That's what I'm now I'm going to pick one of these because I can type again and again. And instead of drop down, it will be called radio button and underscore first class. And whatever I just okay, done. Now come back to page close quickly and call this. So what is the function to select? Click on radio button, click radio button. Simple as that. See, now you see the now you understand the significance of creating two. Instead of link, I don't think about link at all. I just think about click on radio button. I have the function. That's all. Okay, XPath expression, is it there already? Yes, I just now put it there, and it is there in the flight finder object. This is the same thing over and over. You are going to do same thing. You are going to enhance it later. Framework level, it's 50% done so far. We are just repeatedly using it for practice, you know. And what is that? Now radio, you type radio. I just type rad and filtered out results are coming. So now I choose simply. Select, just press enter, it will choose. That's a shortcut. Okay, now that is done, and next thing is let's skip this airline. Okay, because if I actually select specific airline, it might find less results, right? Like for example, if you are only choosing Southwest, you might not find most results. Like Southwest flights may not be flying on the particular day. So let's go with the whatever flights available. So then all I got to click is the continue link, right? So preferences one, and I'm going to create one more function. Okay, because the more functions you have, the better it is. And you will be able to choose or not to choose. Otherwise, you are forced to choose. So this is just to continue. Let's call it. And WebDriver, all you got to find out is just the XPath of it. And this is the input box, contains name is flight finds. Okay, you got it here. I'm just going very fast. Just stop me if you don't. And what is this? Name, not value. So you got to change name also. Now you got it. Okay, now go back quickly to the page objects, and I'm copying this. Okay, now this is a link or button. Okay, doesn't matter. In HTML page nowadays there is no buttons, only links. Okay, so now all I got to do is copy this. Okay, I'm going to end it in like after this page. I'm going to end the class. Okay, anybody is in hurry? Okay, now what do you want to call this as? Link or radio button? Link or button? Button is fine. Okay, because it looks like button even though it is a link. Because yeah, it is actually input, not in A. Because when you submit page, it is submitting whole details, so it is still considered as the input. See, that's why you don't see A here. Okay, so that is fine. And button, what kind of button it is? What is the type of button? I mean, what is the name of the button? Continue. Continue, and that's it. Bingo. The page is completely automated. And here, continue. Click radio button. All we got to pass is the export for this, and button is already there, and it is going to click. Now there is some error. What is this? Tell me. Oh, this is a click radio button. It has to click link first. Click link, and still there is error. Continue button. Let's say. Okay, so the reason is continue is a keyword. In Java there are some keywords, right? You cannot use those words. Continue, for, into, public void, these are keywords. So I just put it as continue button. So the error is gone, and we are going to call this in the test case. So where is our test case? Here it is. Okay, now tell me, what do you call? New flight finder page dot. Okay, what is this? Preferences, right? Preferences, and the last and final flight finder page dot continue. That's it. Okay, so this is going to submit this page and display the next page. So in this page, are there any validations to put or not? Tell me.
Yeah.
No, not really, right? I mean, validations. Do you want to validate anything in this page?
Yeah, you can validate this page.
Yes, yeah, that is true. So every time you can you land in a page, you can validate the title. But unfortunately, this title, if you hover, if you just double click on it, it is not a link. It is a image. It's not a text. It's actually image. See, save images. So I cannot verify the text which is displayed in the image. I mean, I'm not doing the optical character reading OCR here. OCR is not possible in Selenium WebDriver right now. Maybe possible in the future. So yeah. So I will say that in this page, apart from the page title, there are no other validations. Okay, we will get validations the next page. Like for example, if you pay for so and so ticket, like for one-way ticket is $100 and your two people are traveling, so $200 plus tax $50, whole together is the total price. That is my validation. You know, when I pay the price, I want to make sure the total price is calculated correctly, right? So in the next page, we are going to do the validation. So let's not put validations unnecessarily. So let's try and run this until this portion and see if it is working or not. Sorry, what is the question? Okay. Okay, so let's see if everybody is okay with, I mean, 5 or 10 minutes, or are you in hurry?
No,
Right, okay. Okay, so let's, I mean, I'm also asking the people on online. Okay, so now it is selecting everything fine. So we ended up landed in the next page, right? And this page is called select flight. So everything is new again. You have to create a new class select flight in the page objects. You have to create new class select flight in the page flows and define that and call this, right? This is the overall. What we are doing is we are repeatedly doing the same thing for all the pages.
Page validation, right?
Correct, yeah. And page validation is still not there. Okay, we are not there yet. In the next page I'll show you, just to give you a heads up. So let's say I want to choose, I am preferring to go by Unified Airlines, so I'll select this and select this, let's say, and continue. In the next class we'll see. And here it shows the first class price is $281 for one person, right? And that is 2, and fro is 303, and 2 people are flying, so 281 plus 303 multiplied by 2 plus 96 tax should give rise to $1,264. That is the total price. So we don't know whether the developer has done a good job or not. He might have done some mistake right in his coding, but we don't have to give it to the leave it to the chance. So we will validate here. So this is where we have to put the validation, because that's our job. In case any mismatches, we are going to raise issues, I mean defects in JIRA. That's what we are going to do. So this is the validation, and there will be one more validation after filling these details. Let's say secure, I mean you have to fill some dummy credit card details here. I'm just showing you beforehand. Okay, this is what we are going to automate manually. This is what the manual tester does. I mean, of course you have to do it too. And credit card number is some 16 digits, but it's not validating anything actually. This is dummy site, right? So there are no field validations as such. So I'm just going the default and secure purchase. And here final validation will be done to total taxes and total price. The same price which is displayed in the previous page is displaying this page also. That is my validation. And we can also validate the whatever values we have chosen. We have chosen to fly from New York to Paris. Okay, exactly those details must be displayed in the page. Say, let's say it is you have chosen to fly from New York to Paris, and it is displaying you are flying from Zurich to Paris, let's say. So that is wrong, correct? So the error, I mean issue, that could be an issue, and you're going to raise an issue in JIRA or something, that is later. So here it will fail. So if you're not, if you're validating, that means if the expected result is not matching the actual result, we are failing it right away, so that it will show clearly in the console or report. For the time being console, but going forward report also in red color and all those, so that we can report it as a failure. If passes, we'll mark it as pass. I mean, report it as pass, and so that's why validation is very important. And then finally log out. So I just created a placeholders for this. validation and sign out. I mean, between there are a couple more pages. What are those? Flight confirmation page is the one before validation, and before there is one more page. I forgot the name. Flight details or something, right? Flight details or I don't know exactly. So those we are going to do. I mean, I'll just put to do placeholder. Okay, so that class we will continue in the next class. So any questions so far?
I have a question about when we set up our framework, there is we use like implicitly wait, right? So I think it doesn't work for like all the pages.
Right. So that's a good point. We haven't used the implicit wait so far, so we are going to use it. Did we create a reusable function for the implicit wait?
Yeah, set up package. Yeah.
Right.
I think it doesn't work, but I tried to build.
Okay, so
correct. That time it didn't wait.
Okay, the reason is it might be taking more time, so just put the maximum timeout, 50 seconds.
I put like 60 seconds still.
Let's see. Can you run it and show me? Maybe it's a machine issue. Human machine may be very slow. Okay, so one more thing is we have to actually implicit wait for the each page. We have only waited for the beginning, right? That may not be the case. In each page, when it is submitting, it might take some time. Like for example, if you right, so that's a good point. So what we will do is instead of doing driver.manage.timeouts.implicitly wait every time, we will create a reusable function for it, infrastructure, and call it. So that will be easier. So let's go to operations again, and you're going to help me in writing this function. And what do you want to call this? So this is for implicit wait. Okay, now tell me, how do I create a function? Or can you create a function? I'll see and correct you. Okay, can you create function on your Eclipse? Open your Eclipse. Go, just open. Quickly write a function. You already know the definition, how to write implicit wait. Just create a function and write one line. It's just going to take 3 lines. Quickly. No, don't look at the GoToMeeting screen. Go to your Eclipse. So if you don't have one, right, that's fine. You don't have one, right? Just open it. You can write it in any class. Do you have the Eclipse? No, you don't have. Okay, so tell me then, if for the people who do not have Eclipse, just tell me verbally, what do you want me to write? I will ask you. Okay, now help me in writing this function. Okay, so tell me start. I am not going to say a single word, so just tell me. Okay, public is the first. Then void, exactly. Then what is the function name? Implicit wait. Let's call it implicit wait or wait implicitly, whichever is according to your convenience. Implicit wait. Okay, then parenthesis, then correct. Every time you have to pass a WebDriver driver, then okay, that's it, right? Then I can open the bracket. Yeah, okay, then driver dot not find element here. Here's something else. So what do you want to do? You want to manage something, right? So it's not find element. Manage dot timeouts, right? Correct. Implicitly wait. Okay, now you have to pass 2 arguments, and what are those? See here, one is long, one is time unit. So long is for the time, number of seconds or whatever. So let's say 50. Okay, and argument is time unit. Time unit actually gives you opportunity to choose your own time unit, either days, hours, milliseconds. So we are choosing the seconds. Okay, now there is a problem with this slide. I mean, it's not wrong. There is slight problem because every time it will wait for 50 seconds, right? I don't want to do that. I want to be able to pass the time also. Okay, how do I do that? I want to parameterize this also. How do I do that?
Asha.
You got my question? Okay, so this is hard coding. This is called hard coding. I don't want hard code. I want to parameterize the number of seconds I want to wait max. So when you want to do that, correct, you have to pass it as argument. Simple as that. So here I'll pass this as a long and max timeout, right? Max timeout. That is the max timeout actually. That means it will wait at most 50 seconds, but it will also cut off. Okay, so this if you actually hover over this, it will show what kind of object it is. It's a long object and it's a time unit, right? Time unit, I'm leaving it alone. I'm only waiting for seconds only. Long time, I'm passing it as argument. So instead of 50, I am saying whatever timeout I'll pass, just take it. So this is called parameterization. That means it is a generic function, correct? So this is most out of the box, and that means I can customize it according to my needs in terms of passing the value. Okay, let's use it now. So wherever we want to use it, we will use it. Okay, so we decided that initially it opens a page, we have to wait, but between each pages also we have to wait. For example, if I am clicking logout, it will take some time to display the logout page, right? In between there is some network time and client time and server time. So those times we have to wait. We are just waiting for max timeout. Okay. Now, first things first, we are in the home page, and where do we put this? Registration, click link is done. Now, click link takes some time to display the page, so we will put it there. So after each page, last operation, we will put the implicit wait. Common sense, right? Okay, so now we will call it op dot implicit wait. Now max timeout, so let's say this is not going to take more than 20 seconds. So 20 seconds. So now you see why we are putting that. So that means some pages might take like 2 minutes. So in that case, I might have to pass like 120 seconds. So that's why I parameterize this. Okay. Now go to register page, right? That is the next page.
So
and
we cannot use in here like thread.sleep, because I use thread.sleep.
Yes, that's a good question. So the problem with thread.sleep. Okay, so if I use thread.sleep, okay, and I want to wait for 20 seconds, so I have to pass 20,000 milliseconds. Okay, it's a milliseconds. Okay, now it is going to ask me at throws declaration. Okay, that's also fine, but the problem is here after clicking link, it is going to wait 20 seconds no matter what.
Right.
Okay, that means even if the page responds in 5 seconds, it will waste the rest of the 15 seconds and wait, simply wait. So that is actually waste of time for my automation. For example, if I say, let's say if we have 200 test cases to run, and for each test case in the each page, it is going to waste 15 seconds. It is going to add up some hours, right?
Yes.
That is lot of time. So this is called static wait, and static waits are not recommended at all. So do not use. I'll just write it down here. Not recommended because of the stated reason. Why? Because it's going to waste the time. That's why, okay, I'll just write it down but comment it. So what we are going to use is the implicit wait. Implicit wait is the best option.
Which one is the explicit wait?
Explicit wait I'll tell you later. Explicit wait is
I use in like operation class. That's why because every page I put thread.sleep. So yeah.
thread.sleep is only used by the developers.
Developer.
Automation testers should not use. Okay. Development perspective, thread.sleep is okay because they know exactly how much time it will take, so they use it. Because we are dependent upon a lot of factors. It may not be just one page. It may be in the browser specific. It may be your own machine, may be slow. So exactly, that's not it. Okay. Now, yeah. So that is that's the right question, and it will be asked in the interviews also. Why we are not using thread.sleep? Why you are using implicit wait? Answer is
It's take a lot of time.
sorry. Thread.sleep is used by the developer. If you are going for the development, that is fine. I'm not saying, but our target is not development. I am not teaching about development. I am teaching about the automation testing. So you have to say exactly like this. Automation, in automation testing, we are dependent upon a lot of factors, including browser, machine speed, server speed, environmental issues. Keeping all this thing in mind, and we have to use the implicit wait because we don't want to waste time. For example, sometimes the page only takes 5 seconds, sometimes takes 15 seconds. So we are just giving the max time out, but asking the driver to wait only certain time until which the page responds. Once the page responds, do not wait for the rest of the time. So that thing is only possible if you use implicit wait. So this should be your answer interview wise. I mean, you already understood this concept, but explanation is important too. So this is what you're going to explain. Okay, now tell me, how do I call this OP dot? Now you have to remember the function because we named it, right? Implicit wait is a function name. So if you are remembering, if you want to remember only by wait, then rename it as wait implicitly. That's going to be, if that is going to be helpful for you. So let's do that. Okay, so max timeout in this case, I'll say 30 seconds. So I can put 30 seconds. Okay, so every time it's a 30 seconds max is enough. So I'm going to copy this. Okay, so there are a bunch of functions in the given class, right? So all you have to put is, you don't have to put in between. For example, there is flight section, there is preference section, right? You don't have to put in between because there is no time needed. At the end of it, you can put, yeah, exactly. Or you can create just put in the last functions, last line, just before the last line. That is okay. And here, continue button. Yes, after clicking continue, the next page is taking a lot of time. So let's wait. That's it. Okay, so that's a good point. You have to wait implicitly. Okay, so now, any more questions in general or to discuss?
I tried to do like yesterday detection, so I found this thing. I don't understand. That's why I put it easily chat or sleep.
Okay, so then any questions from the, I mean, remote people? Tell me. Otherwise, we will call it a day. Okay, so homework. What homework you want to do? Tell me. I'll give you the same homework. Whatever homework you want to do.
The easy one.
Okay, you choose a homework. Just give me a minute. Hello. Okay. 10 minutes. Okay. Okay, that's fine. Okay, so what is the homework?
So as a homework, let's do the next best.
Okay, that's a good point. Okay, whatever is the next page, you do the homework. Just try it. Okay, so what is the next page? Everybody knows, right? You have to select the. Oh, that is actually easy. Okay, let's try and run and see. I actually. Okay, I have the page. So I'm going to select first class here and continue. Oh, it actually session time. Okay, let's run it and see what is the next page, and we'll start.
There is a television for
Register details is throwing issue. Oh, add throws declaration because I added the. Okay, because the problem is I added thread.sleep and
that's why.
okay, that's okay. That's okay. Okay, so let's see. Based on the page we land up, we'll.
Okay, there is a price.
Class is done. Yeah, you can leave. But my wife is going to drive here, so it's going to take 10 minutes. So you can time pass for 10 minutes. Yeah. So after this one. Okay, so this is the page we landed up here, right? So all you have to do is just select Unified Airline here and return flight Unified Airlines. Okay, because that's my preferred airlines, and click continue. Only 3 operations. So the homework should be.
We don't have to consider the right?
No, no validation. Simple, very simple. So create page objects for this page called select flights. Create 3x paths. Okay, 3x paths, and create another class in page flows and just select depart. Okay, create a function for select depart, create a function for select return, and create a function for continue button. Okay, and then call this function the test. Okay, so just try it because it's very easy, no validation is required. So it's very easy. Just try it out. Okay, and if you are not able to see, not able to do that, I'll show you anyway. But I'm sure you'll be able to do because it's very simple. Yeah. Okay, so that's all for today, guys. Any questions? Any questions from remote?
Sangam,
Yeah.
so I don't know, so I missed some of your classes. So just I like to just know, so I don't know, we have done the GitHubs and SoapUI and these classes are you covered and framework?
SoapUI, don't worry about it right now. I'm going to show you the automation of SoapUI, not just manual. That is after this. Okay, SoapUI REST API, we are going to see later. First, let's concentrate on the front end, browser related activities.
Oh, I see. No, so are you covered? I mean, covered the any classes with the framework related?
This is the framework related class. The one I am teaching right now is a framework related only. Yeah. We are just building the framework. We are halfway through it, and we will build the framework as we go.
With the Selenium, right?
Yeah. This is I'm teaching both automation with the framework, and the framework is nothing but this one. Oh, my battery is dying out. Okay, so this framework, and the example I took is a demo UAT. The site is the example because you will be able to understand if I give example. Via example, I am showing the framework. And after this demoUAT.com, the website we are trying to automate, we will take one more or couple more websites and try to automate because.
But are you done with the Cucumber? But those are we are using the Selenium tools, right? So
correct.
with the
the one we are following is the TDD, test driven development. Okay, that's what we call. Cucumber is actually the behavioral driven development (BDD). Okay, so that's the add-on framework. The framework which you are developing is a hybrid framework. If you add it, like we have. Even I have used a Cucumber very less, but after this everything is done, we will focus on Cucumber. And if you already know, that is well.
One more question, and I have some tools at DevOps, Jenkins.
Don't go to DevOps, okay? DevOps is no.
No. Some of the recruiter asked.
What I'm going to cover in this class is I'm going to cover TestNG. I'm going to cover Maven.
You're not going to any DevOps like Jenkins, anything like this, no?
Jenkins is actually continuous integration.
It's developing operations, right? DevOps.
Jenkins, you don't worry. I'm going to just show you just briefly introduce you about Jenkins. DevOps understanding like this.
Okay, are you going to cover in Cucumber?
Sorry, what is the question? I can't hear.
Are you going to cover Cucumber discussion like this?
Cucumber at the very end, like I said, we are going to focus on our own framework. Custom. This is very important because this is standard framework we are going to use. And TestNG, Maven, and Cucumber is going to come at the very end. All right.
And Ramesh, what is GitHub? Git and GitHub? I don't know. I mean,
okay, so Git is GitHub is store the code, right? For example, if you are we will use the code normally. In real-time projects, the people like 5 or 10 people are going to work on the same order project, so they have to maintain the configuration. Version controlling. Because some person writes some code, some person writes some code, they have to merge the code, right? And they have to check in the code and commit, pull. All these operations will be done in using some subversion or SVN or there are a lot of tools. We are going to use the GitHub. I think from next class I will show you next Sunday.
Oh yeah, if you show first that it will be more clear.
Right. Don't worry, I will show you how to use GitHub. The
And
reason
you're
I'm
not covering the DevOps, Sangam?
Yeah. Say that again.
No, are you not covering the DevOps related anything?
DevOps I'm not covering. Sorry.
Okay.
DevOps
Okay.
is I don't know DevOps, so I don't know DevOps. So how can I teach about DevOps?
No. And and some of the recruiter asking about the DevOps which is used in the Jenkins. Jenkins is the same thing with the development operations used for.
Right, yeah. Jenkins is for continuous integration. So don't worry about
Continuous
Jenkins.
integration. Yeah. It's the same thing like DevOps.
DevOps, so I'm sorry, DevOps I don't know, so I cannot teach.
No, I'm just asking. I don't know as well. So I'm asking, is it Jenkins is the same thing with the DevOps? Like,
No,
is
both
it
are
same?
different.
Jenkins is
DevOps
same.
is different. Jenkins is
Jenkins different and DevOps different.
Yeah, both are different, of course. They're different.
I see.
Okay, guys, so I am
Okay.
closing the session. So have a good day. Have a nice weekend. Trust you. Nice weekend.
Thank you. Bye.